Hey you lovely lot, it's been incredibly busy. The first break I've had to give you a little update on things as I've been teaching the last few days. And teaching on coercive control and stalking and serial perpetrators and the DASH risk model, really important training, and I'm still delivering training to almost 3 decades on, because I believe in ensuring that professionals have the best information to make the best decisions to keep victims and their children safe. So I wanted to give you an update, because I have done a double drop this week. Sounds painful, huh? Well, it kind of has been, because it's been a lot of work, but it's a double drop on Crime Analyst on the podcast. In my original and my normal feed was Dr Naomi Dancy's case, which was the subject of Ghost Story, and you've heard me talk about that case on social media, and I was also in the Wondery hit podcast Ghost Story. Well, I was kind of in it because they only played me for about I think I had 2 sentences, one introducing who I was and one other saying that all the evidence pointed to Dr John Dancy, but no reason was given as to why I felt that, and the other experts as well weren't really utilised as they should, and Dr Naomi Dancy wasn't really centred in that storytelling, and the misogyny was just really infuriating. So you hear me have a discussion and debate with Jackie Malton, who's the former, she was the detective chief inspector in the Metropolitan Police Service and at New Scotland Yard. She's one of the first female detectives, and Jackie's also the character that Jane Tennyson, DCI Jane Tennyson from Prime Suspect, was based on. So Jackie appeared in the Ghost Story podcast too, and she felt like me, that our analysis and our reasoning was left out of the podcast, leaving room for people to say, well, it's fantastical. They're trying to come up with things that sound much more fantastic than what really happened. All we had was the case file. Well, anyway, there's a lot more detail in part 1 of my interview with Jackie, so please go over and subscribe and listen to it. Part 2 will follow next week. I feel really strongly about centering Dr Naomi Dancy, who's a brilliant woman, pioneering woman, and yet she became a footnote and a soundbite in her own murder, and was actually just written out of the narrative by the family, well, by Dr John Dancy. Why would he do that? Well, I share my thoughts on why he did that. So go and listen to Dr Naomi Dancy, our analysis and conversation. And I also dropped an episode talking with my friends and colleagues, Bill Thomas and Kristin Dilley. Well, Bill Thomas is the brother of murder victim Kathy Thomas, who was murdered along with her girlfriend Rebecca Dowski in 1986 on the Colonial Parkways. And I've already dropped 3 episodes about that particular case and the Shenandoah murders, the murders of Lolly Winans and Julie Williams. Well, I've always been interested in this case since 2016 when I first spoke with Bill, and there was a huge update in the case. Almost 4 decades later, on January the 8th, I'm competing with a motorbike there. There's always something noisy when you hit record when you're out on the street. So I spoke with Bill in 2016 and again last year, and brilliant that there has been this update. The presser on January the 8th, so last week, was very bizarre. They were very cagey, law enforcement, in what they said, and I share my thoughts with Bill and Kristin about what I think was going on with that in my latest episode on Crime Analyst, which is about a serial killer being identified in that case, and it's confirmed through DNA evidence. So that's brilliant that someone has been identified, Alan Wade Wilmer Snr, and he now is confirmed as the suspect responsible for the murders of David Knobling and Robin Edwards. Robin was 14 and she was actually raped and sodomized. And also Teresa Howell, who in 1989 had gone to the Zodiac Club in Hampton, and then she left the club and at 2:30 a.m. she disappeared. Well, 7 hours later her body was found. She'd been strangled, raped and murdered. So now we know that 3 people were murdered, and 2 of them being women, and they were sexually violated, they were raped. Well, that opens things up, And I give my thoughts around that to Bill and Kristin on my latest episode. And there's much more to come, because I know that this individual, who is now deceased, by the way, he died in 2017, he would have been very prolific. If we think back to when David Knobling and Robin Edwards were murdered, he would have been 33. What did he do prior to that, and what did he do after that? I really believe he's a very prolific offender. He was married, he had 2 children. Was there coercive control and domestic abuse? I would imagine so. He was a stalker, so he was a hunter. He belonged to a hunting club. He enjoyed hunting. And I wonder when his hunting of animals became hunting of humans, stalking. And he was also a tree surgeon, so he spent time in the trees. Well, the Colonial Parkway has a lot of trees, and it means that you're legitimately in an area. But did he use that to stalk victims? I believe he did. And he also had a boat, the Denny Wade. It was custom-made, wooden, that he spent a lot of time in. I always wondered whether the person approached Kathy and Becky, did they approach by water? We know that killer was most likely a waterman, a fisherman, for 3 reasons, which I describe in my conversation with Bill and Kristin. And there's just so many things that are important to know about him. The truck that he used to drive, the 1966 blue truck that had fishing tools and things in the back of it. And he was 5'5", muscular build, about 165 pounds. His description, he would stand out. And there's 5 images that the FBI have released. So please listen to the episode if you know anything about him, if you've encountered him. And I'm sure many women encountered him. He probably made many women feel uncomfortable. And he was probably doing things for a very long time. So the FBI and Virginia State Police want to know if you ever knew him or met him, and they're trying to piece together the timeline so that they can link other offences and clear up cases. And I do have my own suspicions about a number of offences. So I really want to help, and therefore I'm amplifying the case. Bill wants to help, Kristin does. Real Crime Profile, there's an episode on Real Crime Profile and Mind Over Murder, so do take a listen, please. You can share our episode, amplify it, because we want to make sure people know about this case, and they know about Alan Wade Wilmer Snr, who was very prolific in Virginia. You don't just wake up one day at the age of 33 and stalk, murder and rape a couple. I haven't seen it yet. So please do help amplify and share. And I'll give you more updates when I can. So go over to Crime Analyst, subscribe, and listen to both those episodes.